Today I set up a new aquarium in my fish room for a fish that I didn't actually like. This is the story of how I got my 11th fish tank. It all started when I was doing my annual winterization for my backyard pond. I keep different types of goldfish and minnows in my pond, and where I live the winters get pretty cold. So every year before the temperature drops too low, I'll make a few changes to the pond to make sure my fish and my pond equipment survive the winter. I turn off my waterfall and remove the pump from the water so that the pump doesn't have to strain in the cold water, and I replace it with air stones to keep the water oxygenated for the fish. I don't need any mechanical filtration for my pond during the winter because the fish will hibernate and not eat during those colder months. I finished by adding a net over the pond to prevent leaves from falling in and potentially polluting the pond. Just as I finished securing the net, I realized I forgot something. Or someone rather.
You need to leave!
During the summer, I added a lot of fish to the pond, including some shubunkin goldfish. FYI, these fish are probably my favorite type of goldfish. They are super hardy and their colors are amazing. Somehow when I bought these shubunkin goldfish, the store included an extra fish, a fancy goldfish, a black moor. Now, there's not a lot of fish species that I can say I don't like, but fancy goldfish, I'm not a big fan. These fish haven't done anything wrong. In fact, I think that they actually look kinda cute. However, when I see these fish, I just can't help but to think of how humans made these fish pretty much handicapped. All because they look cuter this way and it would bring in a ton of cash. And it's true, a regular common goldfish starts at about 35 cents a piece, while these fancy goldfish can cost anywhere between $15 to over $100 for a single fish. There are many hybrids in the aquarium hobby, but this is the only case where we went from a super fish that was extremely hardy and adaptable to a fish that could barely swim, and you have to be careful what you put inside the tank with a fancy goldfish because any and everything is a threat to its life. But this is no fault of the goldfish, so this guy will get the same care that all my other fish receive. Now this fish is in my pond and the temperature is dropping. Somehow when fancy goldfish got converted from regular goldfish, they lost the ability to withstand freezing temperatures. So if I don't get this fish out, it will die. In the fish room, I do have a tank for random issues like this, but currently it has some fish already in it. The platies in there would probably coexist well with the goldfish, but I also have some silver dollars in this tank, and there's about a 60% chance that they will eat them alive. I had no choice but to buy a new tank. The only space in the fish room for another aquarium is here, on top of my work shelf. The biggest tank that could fit here is a 20-gallon tank, so I was going to buy another 20-gallon, but I ended up buying a 29-gallon tank. This tank has the same footprint as the 20 long, but is 6 inches taller. The plan was to use this new tank to replace my 20-gallon tank since that tank had more fish, and the old 20-gallon aquarium would become the goldfish's new home. Once that was done, I started to set up the 20-gallon goldfish tank. First I had to make sure that this shelf could hold the weight because it wasn't actually built to be a fish tank stand. It feels solid with my weight, so the tank should be good. This is a fancy goldfish tank, so I have to be very careful when choosing decorations. Fancy goldfish have been known to get trapped in artificial decor, like castles and shipwrecks, and driftwood can have that same threat. The safest choice is to use rocks. Even though this is a temporary housing for the winter, I need the tank to have some aesthetic, so I try to hide the sponge filter. I add a few more rocks to create a natural looking scene, and I finish the look with a few plants. The rocks do take up swimming space, but they also provide cover for the goldfish, who will be stressed out when he's introduced to his winter quarters. The pond was completely covered with a net, so I could only gain access to the water through this 8-inch hole. Luckily for me, fancy goldfish are terrible swimmers, so I caught them in no time. In 4 months, this guy tripled in size. The pond temperature was 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the fish room was at 74 degrees Fahrenheit, so I had to let him float acclimate for about half an hour. After days of watching him swim around confused, I needed to find a way to get him back to his normal routine. So I got him a friend. This is a panda oranda, another type of fancy goldfish. The goal is for them to keep each other's company, not just for this winter, but for all the coming years when I migrate them to and from the pond. After a few days, it was obvious that they enjoyed each other's presence. Despite the fact that these fish have been dealt a bad hand in evolution, there's no denying that they are indeed cute fish. Even that swimming method. It couldn't save their lives if they were ever in danger, but it sure is relaxing to watch. These guys will live in this tank until spring, and then I'll reintroduce both of them into my pond. But next year, these two should be huge, so when I winterize them, I won't use the 20-gallon aquarium, I'll use the 29-gallon aquarium. So that means that after this season, this tank will be ready for new life. Anyways, remember those silver dollars? Check out this video to learn how savage they really are.